We are live. Hello and welcome to the My Veteran Experience podcast. And this is where we speak to veterans and military family members about their experience in and around the military and what it impacts or how it has impacted what they do today. Real excited to have an old friend here with me today, Ed Magee. Thanks for being here, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
All right. And so the first question I ask of everybody is, what do you want people to know about you?
Yeah, well, Ed Magee is a kid who grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana. My parents were teachers, education was a big part of my upbringing. Attended the U.S. Naval Academy. 19 graduated in '87. Went to business school at Fuqua. I am a husband, beautiful wife, Jamel Magee from Birmingham, Alabama. We've got
Hey,
two daughters, and I now work for Fender Musical Instruments Company here in Los Angeles.
awesome. Well, just as some of you who know me, then I went to Naval Academy as well, and Ed and I were in the same company, so that's how I first met this young man years ago, walking the hallways of Bancroft Hall at the Naval Academy. So Lafayette, Louisiana. So that's Cajun country, isn't it?
That's right. Again, Jack.
So, and I'll get to Birmingham later on. My father's from Birmingham, so I know that city quite well. But so
We've intersected in a lot of places, though.
all over the place. So, in fact, one of my best friends from the Marine Corps is from Lafayette as well. So, what drew you to the Naval Academy?
You know what? Again, growing up in a household and extended family, there were a lot of educators, and they really placed a lot of emphasis on, obviously on education and the opportunities that, that I would have, getting my college degree. And again, most of my relatives, graduate degrees, and, real focus on education. My dad was a high school counselor, and, he knew how to shape the path without directly saying, you must or you will. But I had an older cousin, interestingly, who was at the Naval Academy prep school at the time. And my dad, being a counselor, called the counselor up and said, why don't you send one of those Naval Academy info manuals back, back home with Ed. And I started looking at it, and, snot-nosed kid from Louisiana, the campus is incredibly, just overwhelmingly amazing, and the educational opportunity of a Naval Academy degree it just got very interesting very fast, and I ended up applying to both Air Force Academy and Naval Academy, and I was like, Air Force Academy, that's kind of cool. So I got in, went and visited, and again, I'm from Louisiana, so first day I get up. I get about a quarter mile down the road and couldn't breathe anymore, and said, "You know what? The Naval Academy is sounding really nice right now." So,
that humidity felt comfortable, right?
the humidity is much easier to manage than that altitude. So, and it was a great decision, a great choice, and it created a great path for me.
Awesome. So, what were you involved in at the academy?
Yeah, so I was actually a gymnast. I was a team captain by the time I rolled out of there. I majored in mathematics. It was intimidating when I first got up there. I was initially focused on engineering, and I got there, and you're surrounded by these incredibly smart people, and I was like, oh, there's no way that I can do this. After about one semester, it's like I just love math, right? I'm a bit of a math nerd, and I decided to switch majors into mathematics. And again, great decision. It was a good foundation for a lot of the work that I did in the Marines and also in my professional life.
Yeah, all of us get humbled at the Naval Academy. I mean, we're all that in high school, right? You're all that. You're like the man. You're the man in high school. Then you get the Naval Academy. Like, everybody's the man, and so
you're one of many. Yeah, the stack up of talent was, and it still is. I look at the kids getting in the academy today, and they're just exceptional human beings. So, it is intimidating.
And academically, it's intimidating too. So cool. So you gymnast. Being a athlete there is great. I had the honor of playing sport as well, so it was really kind of cool to that camaraderie of the team and what you do after your classes and all that. So, and then you chose the best when you were decided to commission, right? So go on with so you decided what did you decide to do as you were graduating?
Yeah, so I was graduating. Our company commander, company officer, was actually a Marine, and
I remember that, man.
oh yeah, I mean, when you get to interact with Marines, they tend to either grow on you or not grow on you, and and in this case, I mean, he was an extremely impressive human being. And I just looked at the challenge of the Marine Corps, and I was pretty physically fit, and it just felt like a great set of opportunities, and I decided to go Marines, and a lot of it was due to the leadership example of our company officer.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, the Marine Corps officers at the Naval Academy do not have to recruit you. They're being Marine leaders and often they're not the ones, with a couple of exceptions, aren't the ones that are frying you for a scuff on your shoe or something. It's like the leadership. So that was one of the things that influenced me because, so yeah, awesome. So you went to the Corps like all of us, you went to basic school, and then what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so I went to the basic school. I was, very happy and excited about going into artillery, and interestingly, yep, interestingly, my platoon commander, Captain Proudfoot, one day dragged me into the office and said, "Hey, you're testing really well. Do you want to go for aviation?" And we had a couple of aviation slots, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds interesting and cool. Let me see what happens here." So I ended up doing all the rest of the testing. I graduated third in my class at the basic school, and graduated in a position to get a flight slot, and was a naval flight officer. Yep, naval flight officer slot out of the basic school, and then off to Pensacola.
I did not know that. Wow. So, because typically people go to basic school with that contract and they're all, they're wearing the glasses when we do light land nav, so they don't gouge your eyes out or something, as you remember. But
Oh,
cool. So then you went to NFO flight school, and what aircraft did you end up going to? And then kind of give me so what was that kind of career path during your time in the Corps?
Sure. So I went down to flight school in Pensacola. Did well enough to get my first choice, and selected the A6E Intruder, and did a tour in the A6. Went back and taught at the basic school. So I enjoyed the basic school.
Oh, wow.
I could taught there, and was
Proudfoot had an influence on you, huh?
He really did. He really did.
Proudfoot was the man.
And again, the basic school, you're surrounded by the best of the best. Really, the folks who are coming back to teach. I mean, just a cut above, and just being surrounded by my brethren, and and infantry and artillery, and just it was really, really motivating and exciting. After the basic school, I did did the normal AWS, and then headed back to I transitioned to F-18s. So over the course of the career, had a tour and multiple tours in Westpac, and then in the Hornets did a tour in Bosnia in '97.
Awesome! Wow. So the Wizzo, right? The Wizzo in the back of the Hornet. That's some cool stuff. Hair on fire, low altitude.
It's an amazing aircraft, and the mission, the connectivity of the aircraft, the platform to the folks on the ground. Again, it just tied two passions together. Me being a forward air controller, a lot of our missions were nighttime missions, running airborne forward air controller type missions during the Bosnian conflict. I mean, it was a great mission, a great squadron. We had a phenomenal commanding officer at the time, and I mean, it's just a great experience, amazing experience. A little combat time.
So what were you out of El Toro, or were you out at Buford?
No, I was out of Buford.
Okay.
Excuse me, Beaufort, not Buford. Is it Buford or Beaufort?
I think Beaufort's North Carolina, but yeah, what are those places?
In a few years, so yeah, the Hornet base down in
right. Okay. Yeah. So, well, hey, before we go on, let's say just quickly, you transitioned out of the Marine Corps and decided to pursue, you said Fuqua, an MBA, a full-time MBA?
Yes. So I transitioned out, at 15 years, interestingly. So after my squadron tour, did command and staff, and then a tour at headquarters Marine Corps. And then my wife and I, she's a lawyer. We took an unconventional path and went to business school for a couple of years. And then I left Fuqua and did the leadership development program at Harley Davidson. So again, it really, the grounding and the life experience of that time in the military really helped me as I made the transition into civilian life.
So I'll just hit it now since you brought it up. So your wife's from Birmingham. What high school did you go to?
She went to Ramsey High.
Ramsey High. Okay. Yeah. So my father's from Birmingham. He enlisted in the Navy, and then we moved around with him. He did 30 years in the Navy, retired as a chief warrant officer. But he's from inner city Birmingham. Went to a Woodlawn High School, and then his sisters went to one called Banks, and then my cousins and all were mostly up around you at Trustful. So,
yeah. Well, her dad was actually the principal of Parker High, and they were
okay
for University of Alabama. He was an African American principal, and was there for must have been over 30 years. So, okay. Long history with public education on both sides of the family there.
Awesome. Well, hey, so before we get into your Fuqua and your business career, there's a lot in the news today, man. So let's rap about that a little bit. Yeah. Let's throw it out there because I think it's relevant. And as two individuals that spent time together at the Naval Academy and both Marines, we call each other brother, and we mean it. It's not just something that we say, we mean that. So, and let's dig back early on, man. You grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana, the South, a Cajun city. You got Lake Charles, Lafayette. How was that growing up as a African-American kid in Lafayette, Louisiana?
Well, what's interesting is I always kind of grew up as a little bit of as an outsider. So I was, the nerdy kid who,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Always taking advanced classes, and a lot of times I was one of a very small number of. And I think you learn some skills growing up that really help you a little later on in life. I will say, right now, interestingly, we had a good chat with our marketing team after some of the latest madness that we're enduring in the country right now. And, I just shared with them, the challenge oftentimes of just being an African-American. And when these things happen, how does that make me feel? And the way that I kind of articulated to the team is, African-Americans have this little box, and, in the box, you kind of stuff all of the micro and macro aggressions that you've experienced around race over the course of your lifetime. And what happens is when these incidences happen, you're not just dealing with the incident, where that box comes open and you're dealing with the incident and everything that is accumulated in that box. And as we get a little older, the box gets a little bigger and bigger and bigger. And, we shut it, we walk into work, and we pretend that everything is okay. So I think for myself personally, this latest episode, it was just challenging because box opens, you see all the incredible things, all the incredible opportunities that I've had as an African-American over the course of my lifetime. But also, there's this sense of, have we really changed enough? Have we really acknowledged some of these issues? Because, it's scary to know that, I can get stopped. And we learned those lessons early on. I was in flight school, driving home. It was, I lived in Pensacola, out on Perdido Key, and driving home late at night. And, I noticed an officer was following me, and I had just left home, just driving back to Pensacola. And I was in Alabama at the time, pulled over, he lights on, pulled over, and, did the whole thing, hands on the steering wheel, because we, as we were taught. Officer comes up, tell him what you're doing, and, grab the license. And, I wasn't speeding, wasn't drinking. And, he runs the license, comes back and says, well, the license plate belonged to a VW in some other city in Florida. And I was like, okay, well, that's, it's registered. It's fine. And in the back of my mind is like, okay, I know my stuff is paid up, my license is, there's nothing wrong. And I told him, hey, I'm an officer, headed back to flight school, and living in Pensacola, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But again, it's like in the back of your mind, it's like
you were targeted, right?
It just felt a little nervous,
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm me, definitely not speeding, and everyone has a list of those experiences, and you deal with all of them when these things crop up, and the best thing to do, and what has been amazing is I've had friends across the country just kind of reach out and check in and say, hey, and a lot of them were my old military buds, and I think that goes back to that sense of the Marine Corps family, the brotherhood, the mission. You are a part of something much greater than you, and that sense of purpose really connects people on a different level. And a lot of those buds would just call them to check in and hey, how are you doing? And that helps you to deal with all of the stuff in the box.
The genie in the box, huh?
The genie in the box, and quite honestly, just knowing that you've got friends and family and and brothers who support you, it really helps everyone just deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up as a Navy dependent, and my father's from the South, but we lived in California. My mother's from a different country. My mother's from Spain, so very different experience. And she was poor. She grew up very poor, so it wasn't like she had this outlook on race in the U.S. I mean, she barely spoke English. So, especially the early years in San Diego, and we spoke Spanish all the time. But we would visit Birmingham once a year, and I saw the overt, racist comments and all that stuff. I heard it, and my dad wasn't that. I mean, my dad had become a Navy sailor, and then growing up overseas in the military. Not that it doesn't exist. You can never say it doesn't exist, but it's a different sort of. You go to school with people of all races. A lot of mixed kids. The parents had married someone from that country. Right. Like the Japanese mother, and I had a Spanish mother. I lived in Spain in the military base. So the what you experience in the area of racism is just a different environment. It's not like growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you've got the black community lives here and then you live there, which I encountered in Pensacola when I went to high school in Pensacola. And people who don't know, Pensacola is the South, and it's lower Alabama, as they like to say. But so. Yeah, so the genie. I love that analogy, the box, because that's kind of I think, I mean, you carry that box around, and I think we all have a box of something, don't we? Everyone has a box of something going on, has a box of something. And it ain't Cheerios, man. So,
not at all.
And you went to the Naval Academy, and again, we've had some incidents just popped up, among not classmates, but people who were Academy grads that touched on, kind of some racist things going on. So how was your experience? And, like I said, and myself, I'll just say throughout my life growing up, I was an athlete and I always was playing sports. And so it was always, the black kids that I hung out with because I was an athlete and they were playing sports with me. And that's kind of how my friendships was about who's playing sports with me. I didn't really care if you were other than that. But like I said, growing up as a military dependent, a little bit different. So you went to the Naval Academy, and what was your 4 years like there in that sense?
It was really truly fantastic. I think at some level, just growing up, being the one of kid, it wasn't a transition and going to the Naval Academy. I think for me, it was just getting over the initial intimidation of like, holy there are just walking genius studs everywhere here, and I'm not worthy. There were we had a couple of. I had a roommate during our freshman year, and we had just started rooming together. Me and Jeff Lucas, Dr. Lucas.
That's right.
And this individual who will go unnamed, we were talking one night, and he goes, "Yeah, I haven't told my parents that that I'm rooming with a black person." And we were like, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Well, they would probably have me come home and quit." And it was like,
wow,
okay, all right, interesting. I don't think he lasted through the end of the semester. He flunked academically, but again, the micro and macro aggressions that you kind of stuff, you stuff in that box and you deal with it. But other than, I mean, there weren't any other, I would say, instances where I ever felt uncomfortable. And again, I think that goes back to you're part of, the military forces people together.
Mm-hmm.
And they subvert themselves to the mission and purpose of service, and I think that's when we're at our best as humans, right? We're serving something greater than ourselves, and it's just the collective bond that gets built as a result of being a part of something bigger than you. And I felt that at the Naval Academy. I definitely felt it in the Marines. Harley Davidson definitely felt it at Harley, and at Fender now, it's the same. I've been fortunate.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember we used to joke at the academy, the 7th Battalion, Black Studies Club. I used to always say, "Hey, man, I'm not getting an invitation to the club, man. Where's my invitation?" I used to joke because I know a couple of my classmates who I know quite well that were 7th Battalion pledge members. Tony Wells, Doug Edwards, those folks that I'm pretty close to, man.
Absolutely. And what's interesting, actually at business school, that this is the best description. One of our Korean classmates said, when we, walk into a class, we turn on this filter, right? Filter to translate into English, and it takes energy. And the reason, like at the end of the day, that we all kind of sit at the table and speak is because you take the filter off and it gives you a chance to rest. So the 7th Battalion was just, you kind of take the filter off. And you don't have to, there's no pretending, and you just get to cut up and speak the same language.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? Someone made this comment the other day about and I'll use it for the Naval Academy as well. But he described as being a junior officer. It's competitive. I mean, you got to be competitive, and we're all trying to survive, right? I mean, we're all in a school that's very difficult academically, just pressure, and if you're playing a sport, the time management that you probably didn't worry about in high school.
Right.
And so you have to worry about these things. So people are surviving, but there's still the competitiveness, because we're all, if you're there, you're competitive.
Absolutely.
And he described it as like the sharks kind of roaming around each other, and they kind of prick each other with their fin every once in a while. But it's not that you dislike these folks, but you want to rise, and you're competitive. And so that's good to hear. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never really had this discussion with one of my classmates or yourself or anyone that I know from the African American community who was at the academy with me. Like I said, I have some very close friends from that community, and just people that I just consider my brothers, and people that I keep in touch with and visit when I'm in their hometowns and those sorts of things. So good to hear that overall was a good experience. I mean, I can say, and then in the Marine Corps, it's good to hear that overall was a good experience for you as well. So, yeah, like I say, I don't want to make this whole thing on this topic, but I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's an important topic today, and people like yourself who've are leaders today and are working in your communities and in corporate America are folks that make a difference and can be a role model as well. So you ended up going to business school, and what was Fuqua like? I mean, my wife went there, so I sort of know a little bit, but you never know something unless you're there actually doing it. So what was Fuqua like for you?
It was absolutely amazing. Again, I think I've had the great fortune of, being at institutions where you're just surrounded by incredibly talented people. And I think at Fuqua, diversity is amped up a notch. It's around 40% female. It was very global. And I mean, some of my fondest memories, my daughter was 4, Maya was 4 at the time. And, Fuqua Fridays is a real social event. And she would run around with a pack of 15 kids, and you would hear 15 languages, right? And they were playing and having fun. And I mean, for me, it was really the embodiment of, the American melting pot, right? And we are at our absolute best when we're just, Americans. We've got a lot in common, and there's a great purpose and mission to our, to our country. And just watching the kids interact, not speaking the same language, but just working together, being kids and having a great time. I mean, it was very much reflective of my experience at Fuqua. The educational challenges, it really forced me, the old military hack, to study all the rest, and
Yeah.
it was phenomenal educational experience. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mentor quite a few people who are transitioning off of active duty, and whenever they bring up MBA, I always tell them go do the full time,
Yeah.
get that experience, because there's really nothing like that experience. It's not like the executive program or the part time. The full time really gives you and it's the network. Part of it is the people you meet, because you just described it. You're meeting all these talented people from all over the world. Just learning from others as you speak to them and just normal conversation every day is almost as valuable as what you learn from your professor. So I always say, man, if you want to do MBA, go full time and get that experience.
The other fantastic part really was, it gave me 2 years to kind of transition out of the, military jargon, military mindset, and literally
Grow
learn
your
how.
hair out.
Yeah, exactly. Grow the hair. Literally learn how to, when to use the vernacular, when not to, and how to operate in this environment before jumping into my professional career. So again, I agree with you wholeheartedly that the full-time experience is definitely what I would recommend to anyone transitioning out.
Did you go directly to Harley Davidson then from
Yep.
Fuqua?
So leadership development program at Harley out of Fuqua. So I had
That's when I reconnected with
Yeah,
you. Just
absolutely.
that I think I saw you at one of your yeah, I did. I saw you at one of your reunions,
Yeah.
and then I got your card and I reached out. I was hoping to make a visit to one of the plants, but I didn't. So tell me about that experience. Harley, I mean the iconic Harley Davidson. I mean, how cool is that?
Again, lucky little kid from Scott, Louisiana. There, Harley was amazing, and again, it's a brand with a purpose and a mission, and I mean, just a level of excitement every day about waking up, throwing on some Harley gear, hopping on your bike, going to work. I mean, you got to live the life and be a part of the business, which was incredible. I had a chance to work in Kansas City and Milwaukee and York, Pennsylvania, and do a pretty significant manufacturing transformation in York. And
Awesome.
I mean, it was a fantastic decade and a great investment. Love the company, love the brand. Um, it was a great time, great people.
Cool. And then I know you maybe did something in between, but now you're at Fender. You can talk about what you did in between, but I know you're now at Fender. So describe what you do there and kind of what the focus of I mean, another cool brand. I mean, how cool can it be? You get a Harley to ride to work, and then you get a guitar to learn how to sing some folk songs. I'm sure you're out. I'm sure you're singing every night and strumming a guitar before you go to bed. But
Absolutely. Remember, I'm the ops knuckledragger there. I'm just making it work. So, yeah, I mean, I spent 3 years at ABB, an ABB company in Memphis, and then got picked up for this job running operations at Fender. And I've got, manufacturing, supply chain, planning, distribution, and logistics. Basically, all the pieces of the company where we either, we make and move instruments around the world. And it's, again, a fantastic brand. There's so many similarities about the brand and the customers and just we're going to hit our 75th anniversary next year. And I mean, just to be a part of the music industry right now at this moment is actually really interesting and really positive because, music has the power to heal, to love, to change. I mean, it's really gratifying to be able to work at a company and, the object that you create just, it's a piece of art by itself, and then someone turns it into art. And again, that sense of mission and purpose is overwhelming here, and it's fun to come to work every day.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the impact of music, as I'll say, it strums the emotional strings, right?
It absolutely does. It does, and just to interact with artists, and we see in the good old days we were seeing live music pretty regularly here. And looking forward to that experience again. But you just watch an artist pick up an instrument and just voice and instrument, and I mean it's art on 10. It's exciting, and it connects us as humans, right?
Yeah.
Music is
I love it. Yeah, being in LA, you're in the center of the
oh,
entertainment world. So how many visitors do you guys get?
I mean, just we're our office is in Hollywood, and when we made the decision to move to LA, we wanted to be closer to our artist, and we are, and it's fantastic. You never know who's going to be walking through. I've been to some amazing, everyone from Nine Inch Nails, and I just love seeing live music.
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails, David Ramirez, to the Black
Wow.
Pumas. I mean, it's just you get exposed to the human beings behind, the
Yeah.
artist and
Yeah.
musician, and to a person, they've all just been fantastic, absolutely fantastic to interact with. And I mean, again, it when you get to serve a purpose greater than you, that's the most thing of all.
So does the goatee come as part of like the first day of orientation, they go by month 3, you have to have a goatee as part of the Fender culture? I'm just joking.
Part of my rebellion leaving the Marine Corps, the hair got a little long, goatee started working.
I
So
got I got a little thing going on too, so I don't, it's my I call it my COVID, so I can kind of
there you
mask it
go.
a bit.
There
But
you
yeah, I still have trouble growing my hair out. I just at some point it's like I can't do it anymore. So Fender, so tell me a little bit more about Fender. 75th anniversary. You're operations lead for the
go.
company, and I think you mentioned earlier you guys manufacture down in Mexico, or maybe you said that before we got on, but yeah, I mean, I know you go down to Mexico. I think it's in the Baja, right? Is that where one of your
Yeah.
plants are?
So we've got our U.S. facilities in Corona, California, and that's where we've got
Oh,
our made in USA guitars and the custom shop, and then we've got a factory in Mexico, in Ensenada, Mexico. So yeah, I'm back and forth.
That's a rough town to be hanging out in.
Amazing town. I absolutely
I,
love Ensenada. The factory there is just a wonderful. Both of our factories are just amazing. We call them the dream factories, and if you can imagine, I mean, in both factories, folks are just thrilled to come in. They know what they're making is a piece of
yeah,
art,
right,
and
right.
they get to watch, their music heroes. We try and bring them to the factory every once in a while, and just bring music into the factory. And it's amazing to be able to connect people, in this way to the company and its mission. So it's really exciting.
Now, getting down to Ensenada, I was stationed in San Diego, so I used to go down Ensenada. Is it Papa's and Beer? Is that the famous
That,
bar down there?
yeah, that's a big famous one.
Okay.
Yeah, what's
You've been there once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, what's fun is when we go down there, we'll have, usually 1 or 2 nights. What I always try and do is we do some skip level, just in some engaged time with our engineers, and and just plugging it, walking the flight line, right?
Walking the flight. There
Walk
you
the
go.
flight line, and then you do some after hours dinners and everything else, and it's just to understand who are the people that are doing the amazing work in both of our factories, quite honestly. So COVID has kind of tapped out on that a little bit. I'm in our Corona factory about once a week now. Um, but it's, my favorite place on the planet is a factory. I just love factories. I love, watching people do their work. I love improvement mindset, and everything that goes on in the factories just fits who I am. So that's
Is that the nerdy kid
that is.
in
I
you
think
from
so.
back in the day? Because didn't you show me an app when you were at Harley Davidson that tracked the all the production? I think you
Oh,
showed me that app, man. I was really impressed.
we did a big SAP implementation, and I could
Yeah.
wake up in the middle of the night, turn on the iPhone and look at what was going on the assembly line. And when we first got this capability, our supervisors, they used to hate it, because I would wake up, look at stuff, and shoot a text out at like 3 in the morning, like, "Hey, what's going on?" They were
What
like,
happened?
"Go back to sleep, please.
Exactly. Put some grease on that thing.
Take
Have you
that
checked
app away." Yeah.
have you checked the air in the tires this morning? What's going on, right? Jeez.
He's like,
All right, man. Go back to sleep, CO. We don't got you. We don't need you awake during the dog watch, man. Leave
"We
us
got
alone.
this. We got this." Exactly. So it was fun.
Well, I listened to this about guitars. Artists are very particular about their guitars, and they stick with it. I love music. I'm one of my favorite artists is really Elvis Costello,
Oh, nice.
who is just a great lyricist, and he's a guitar player as well. Not the best guitar player, but he's an
Phenomenal.
adequate guitar. Yeah. So, but I was listening, and one of my other favorite artists is Chris Stapleton, who I heard on a podcast. He was on Joe Rogan not too long ago. I think it was last year, and then I saw him on the NPR Tiny Desk concert. Have you ever seen one of those? But he has this guitar that looks like it's been through the ringer. It's all worn and all that, and they ask him about it on the Tiny Desk. The person says, "Hey, what's your guitar?" And he says, "Well, I didn't originally own it. I
Hmm.
got it from somebody." He says, "I think it was used as a canoe paddle at some point because it still has mud in it and all that." But he goes, "But I usually go to it. It's the guitar that I really like." And then his wife pointed out, because he said, I have a couple, and his wife said he has a lot.
More than a couple.
So
Yeah,
he has more than a couple. So he
absolutely.
has a whole. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I've seen this thing online with Vince Gill, who has a whole room of guitars, and I don't know if these are Fender guys or not, but people are particular, and like all artists, you kind of, even athletes, as we have our little quirks, right? Like I remember, I
That's
always
it.
tied up my shoes. My soccer cleats, I would tighten them away from everybody before I got on the field. I would go like to the corner of the field, retie my cleats, and just do it real particular. That was my little
So
quirk
that was
before
your
every.
little OCD thing to
That
get.
was my
Yeah.
OCD, and I got OCD. My wife teases me to talk because I straighten shit out on my desk. Like if something's out of line, I'm straightening it out. My wife likes always, but yeah, that was my OCD thing, is a little quirk. And I know artists, and you've probably seen it with some of the artists you have on their guitar stuff.
They are looking for that certain tone. The conversation that we have is around tone, and for an artist, they're looking for. I mean, the instrument is a voice for them. It's a tool, and different. Some of our artists, they'll pick up a Gibson for this particular tone that they're looking for. We
Mhm.
love it when they play Fender, obviously, but it's like a paintbrush, and they're looking for the tone that reflects the song, the lyrics. And one of the most amazing things that I've done is watching one of our signature artists work with one of our master builders. All right,
Mm.
so you've got an amazing artist who's working with one of 11 master builders in the world, and they just there's this iterative back and forth around creating, and well, this sound and this neck shape, and this wood, and what's the tone, and how does this feel, and how what type of music. I mean, that is mind blowing to see, just the creative juices going back and forth and ebbing and flowing. And in some cases, the master builder understands how to build a guitar, and the artist understands the tone. They know what they want that paintbrush to do, and they've got to translate that into a physical object. And it's amazing to watch. And the best part is when the guitar is done, there's always a little reveal, and they're there with the builder, and they open it up, like, it's joy, right? It's
That's
Christmas
awesome. Yeah.
Day joy, and they pick it up, and then it feels the right way, and it is, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
So here's a super important question that people really, I think, wonder. And I'll ask, since you're in the business, I'll ask you: can you really go to 11?
Actually, we do have amps that go to 11. Yes, the
Okay,
answer is
okay.
yes, without a doubt.
We've solved problem solved. We
Yep,
can
yep,
go to 11.
yep.
Okay, good,
Actually,
good.
Chris Stapleton has a signature amp. He's got a signature Fender amp, and
Oh, really?
I'll have to double check, but there might be an 11 somewhere on that amp. But
Well,
we definitely buy tone knobs with 11 on there. So.
well, I've been taking lessons
Awesome.
recently. I'm a beginner, but I've been digging in a little bit and listening to people. And I was looking at a Chris Stapleton song on YouTube. It was um, and the instructor, he loosened he actually loosens the string
Uh-huh.
out of tune for a particular how he
Yep.
wants to play it in that song, which I thought was interesting. So, well, man, Ed, I see your background there. You're in beautiful Los Angeles. I don't think much wilding's going on over that wall or anything. So your family's safe, which I'm glad to hear.
Yep.
And
Everyone's
LA's a great. I love LA. One of my best friends from who you've met.
Mhm.
My buddy, you know, I visit LA often enough and check in with I have some very close friends in LA, and I just love the city and the vibe and all that's
It's
going on. It's always the entertainment world. I mean, artists, you bring artists together. It brings a whole other group of people with them who are also creative, and so this whole world of creativity is so cool. And there's certain cities that have it, you know, Austin, Texas, New Orleans,
absolutely.
Nashville, you know, New York City. You've got that vibe there. I love going to New Orleans as well. I mean, it's well, hey, so as we as we finish up, and I just love the journey, man, from nerdy kid and Scott, Louisiana, Naval Academy, and you know I've known you for a little while, and I didn't know everything about you, but I learned a lot today, which was great. And so, any words of wisdom or anything that you want to impart about what we discussed today? And
Yeah, I think that just the idea of service, and folks who've spent time in the military understand service. You can't give up on serving, our country, your community when you leave the military. And I'm on the board of Boys and Girls Club of Metro LA. I'm co-president of the Fender Play Foundation. We're doing some work this year with LAUSD. We're doing a summer school program and then eventually a string musical instrument program in the fall. And just the idea that we've got to keep giving back, right? We get an incredible set of skills and a set of experiences, and the most important thing is just keep giving back. And you want to know that you get to touch a lot of lives, and they have a big influence and impact, especially in the military, just on you as a human being. And when you get done with that experience, the most important thing for you to do is give something back. And there's a lot of joy in giving back.
it's a great message, man. Well, great. Well, my man, it's been awesome just connecting with you, seeing you. It's been a while since I've seen you, so good to see your face, that you're all
Same.
happy and well and safe and all the good things. Uh, so I will hold you to visiting the Corona plant, at least. Maybe the Ensenada plant. You never know. I'm a Mexico guy, so I
Great.
love Mexico. So when I come down to LA again, you have to show me the Fender world, because I'm and now that I'm picking a little bit, I can show my lack of skills and
Listen,
turn it up to 11.
bring it in. It will inspire you to continue practicing. You'll absolutely love it. I mean, there's a whole lot of passion that goes into building a guitar, and we've got some absolutely amazing employees, and you'll love the experience. So I look forward to you coming on next time.
All right. Well, keep being a great man, Ed. It's good talking to you. And
So,
and thank you for listening to the My Veteran Experience podcast.
thanks.